All right. All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. I'm going, like I always do, I go over to Shadowhunters Paranormal Investigation and Events and look and make sure that Chris and I are live. And then once we are, we start the interview. So I think we're, and I got to do live so that way we can see. That way we could see. There we go. We are live, but so we're all set to go on the air. So welcome. So I got to turn it down, otherwise I'm going to get feedback and
Feedback.
Oh, it's always that way. So all right, that's down. Then I'll leave it up so we can see who comes in and does some chatting with us. So hi, Chris Fleming. Welcome.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it's been a long time. We were just talking before we got on the air. We were just talking about the last time we saw each other was at an event for Ursula in Chicago. It was kind of fun, but that was quite a while.
Dead of Winter or something?
Yep, Dead of Winter. That was like 2 years ago. So it's been a while. Yeah, you weren't at the last one she did a year ago.
No.
So it's been 2 years since you and I saw each other. So kind of tough, but we had a good time. He was on the radio show, and
Yeah.
it's kind of fun. I'll let Chris explain who he is in a second. It was kind of fun that Chris has always been, if you go to see Chris's lectures and everything, he always talks about the future. He always sees things, and that's what's always pretty incredible about his gifts. And he talked about a lot of stuff that's happening right now. So we'll get into that tonight too. So, So Chris, why don't you let everybody know who you are as we're gaining the room, and we'll go in there, talk, and have a good time tonight.
No, thank you. Yeah, I'm actually coming from you live right now. I'm at my mom's house, and I'm sitting on her couch, and we've got this friend over here. I told them, "Shh, don't talk when I'm talking." So they're like, "Shh, okay." They're telling everybody else in the room, "Shh," right? No, my name's Chris Fleming, and some of you may know me from some of the paranormal shows, but I've been involved in the paranormal ever since I was a kid, growing up in a haunted house, going through high school, college, and then when I lived in Algonquin and, Hoffman Estates, having a lot of paranormal events there. So because of that, I started investigating back in the 90s, and I published a magazine dealing with the paranormal with people all over the world because I became interested when the internet was born in the 90s and we started using it more. I was able to connect with people all over the world and start hearing some of their stories, and I turned that into a magazine for about 4 or 5 years. And then I was very fortunate in 99, because of my magazine, I had a couple production companies contact me, and I was consultant on a couple shows, Real Scary Stories, and then World's Scariest Ghost caught on tape. And they just asked me questions about ghosts and stuff, and I sent them some, photographs and other things for them to look for, and so they used some of them in the show. So that was pretty cool. And that was about it, And then I remember I got a call from the UK back in 2003, and I didn't return the call. It was a voicemail. Month or two went by. I was like, I don't got time for this. I was busy in the mortgage business because I got in the mortgage business in 97. Okay. I did that for like 13 years, and I was really busy. And I remember, I got an email. I didn't pay attention to it, and then I get a phone call at the office, the mortgage office. They go, "You got some lady from the UK. She said she's been trying to get hold of you." I'm like, "What?" I go, "Oh my God, is that the woman that called a month ago?" So anyway, make a long story short, took the call. She says, "Hey, we got this show we're trying to do about the paranormal. Are you still doing the paranormal?" I said, "Well, it's my life, but in the mortgage business." And so they flew me out to the UK, and we investigated Mark Bowen, the death of Mark Bowen, and they took me to where he died and everything. And I connected with the spirits and with Gail, and I didn't think anything of it. I thought I got a free trip out of it, for 2-3 days in the UK. That was fun. Came home, forgot all about it. And about 6 weeks later, I get a call. We're green lit. I go, "What does that mean?" "We're doing a show." And I'm like, "Oh shoot." I'm like, because I personally, I did not want to go on TV talking about my experiences. So I remember I sat down with my mom and I sat down with my sister, and I said, "Are you guys okay with this? Because I might have to bring up stuff from my past that we dealt with in that house." And they're like, "Well, yeah, if this is what you want to do, just don't tell them everything. Don't tell them everything." And I haven't spoke about every single thing that's happened in that house. I've talked about a lot of them, but not everything. Right. So, little did I know we do 3 seasons, and then I would be doing all these other shows because of what I'm into. So, that's got me where I am today.
And now everybody knows about you.
I guess so. That's what happens when you start talking about it,
Well,
right?
it's funny, this weekend at the event I was at, I did there was two psychic fairs that opened up this weekend, and I was reading that, and everybody came up and said, "Oh, you're going to talk to Chris Fleming, and I said, "Yes," and they go, "Oh, he's so great," and I guess the one that everybody remembers you from is Psychic Kids.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That was, at the time, all the way up to the show that I do now, but that
yeah,
was probably the greatest thing that I've ever done. And the reason being is I remember watching the first season on TV, and I was watching Chip and everything. I said, wow, I wish I would be able to go on that show and try to help these kids, because I went through that. Little did I know that the universe would open up that door during season 2 when I was talking to the head of development for A&E, and they said, hey, we want to have you on this show. And I'm like, okay, sure. So they put me on one episode, and then they liked what I did, and then they brought me in, obviously, on more episodes. So I think I did like 5 episodes for the show. But the greatest thing about that was, and not, everybody sees it from the TV, but they don't see behind the scenes, is it was like going to a 4-day workshop. Is the way we had it set up was we had all these different activities that we were doing with the family, with the kids, and then sometimes just with the parents, and sometimes just with the kids. And they would have to be there at that particular time. And Edie and I would sit down with them. Then sometimes we would sit down with them individually. And the interesting thing is Edie and I would cross-examine the parents and the kids. It's like we would sit with them individually, and without them knowing, we'd be asking certain questions and watching their body movements to see if they were, lying, or they're manipulating, or there was anything that was out of place. And I'm not saying that was what we were supposed to do, but we wanted to make sure that they were actually experiencing what they were experiencing and going through. And
right,
it was just really, it was really interesting. But then when we had them together and hearing some of their interpersonal stories and relationship issues and stuff like that, because of the paranormal stuff they were dealing with, it got really emotional, and it got me emotional because it reminded me of things that I went through with my dad, with his skepticism at times. So looking through to some of these parents, like, they didn't want to hear about it, and either was the mother or the father just did not want to believe it, and then the kid felt like he didn't have his parents' support. So we were able to break through to them and bring these families together,
right,
and we would walk away after that 4 or 5 days where we became friends for life, because of what we accomplished during that period of time. But also we mended, the difficulties that they had. And for me, that was like, wow, I could take my life and the struggles that I went through dealing with this stuff, and I can turn it around and do good, help these people. So for me, that was obviously different than what I was doing with Dead Famous, but it was something that I really wanted to do. So I was very grateful for that opportunity.
right. So how did you, because you've had ththese gifts all along, you've had the experiences all your life. How did yes, it was TV, but was that the only thing that made you come out to, your mediumship and your psychic self,
No, no.
or was it
The thing
more?
is, well, when I was a kid, like when I was 3 years old, I had a dream that my sister was going to drown. And I was very fortunate that my mom was open to this stuff,
Okay,
because she had dreams that had come true. And then her mother had dreams that had come true.
right.
So she believed in it, right? So when I
Yeah,
had this precognitive dream and I wake up screaming, my mom comes in because I'm screaming bloody murder that my sister's, drowned. And my mom's like, what do you mean she's drowned? Tell me what you dreamt. What did you see? Because my mom knew she had had experiences that came true. So for her, she's like, I need to make sure that this is either a dream or this is a precognition. And if it is, we need to do something to prevent this.
right.
So my mom, walked me through step by step what to do. And then lo and behold, 6 months later, the actual event happened. But because my mom had walked me through it, my sister and saved her life. So
Okay,
that's at 3 years old. Okay. So when you're 3 years old and you have this emotional, impactful situation that you realize that if you didn't have this dream, your sister was going to die. That you, from that point forward, you believe in this. There is no skepticism. So you
right.
realize, okay, my dreams, these visions I get, some of them are going to come true. So I need to pay attention to them. So that was my education at such a young age. And then growing up, yeah, would have these experiences I would share with my mom or share with some of my friends growing up in high school. And they'd say, dude, you freak me out, man. because I would tell them about something, and they already knew that was going to happen, or they had known something behind my back while I was out of town, and I come back and I tell them I had this dream, and they're like, "How the hell did he know?" You know, especially in sports too. I would have a dream about how the game would end, or someone would get hurt or something, and I would say it, and it would happen. So stuff like that was just, it was normal to me. It was just normal.
Well, I have to be happy for your mom that she made it feel normal for you. Because you
Well,
and I,
let's put it
you
this
and I
way:
are
if we say
completely
feel
different.
normal, it wasn't something we were supposed to talk about. Remember, this is in the 70s. So she would tell me, don't go talking about at school, don't go, because whatever. It's not like and then talked about today than it was
Right.
back then. So we were the type of family, and most families were back then, whatever happened in the house, whatever went on, you kept it to yourself. You didn't talk about it. So I would get reprimanded because I would go to grade school and I would tell everybody, if I saw ghosts or I was having something, and teachers would pull me aside because I went to a Catholic school, and they would say, this isn't real. There's no such thing as ghosts. And I'd be crying like, yes, there is. And I'd come home and I'd cry and tell my mom. She's like, why are you telling kids at school? Don't tell kids at school, And I'm like, but why? Some of the kids have had experiences, and, no, you don't tell people this. So I was like, well, why don't you tell people this? When you're a young age, you don't know the difference of why, and how people react to it. You just do it. You just tell them.
Yeah, because I remember when I was young, and I'm a few years older than you, not much, but a few. And so it was the late, mid to late '60s. By the time that I was about I was about 4 or 5, and I started seeing my spirits, and I started talking to them, and I told all the neighbors, and I was made fun, and it kept going into the '70s because I was always the kid that was different because I saw the spirits, and I actually turned them off for years. I wasn't until when I went back to college that I saw them again because it was a rough time.
Yeah, I understand that. And it's like, up until about 8th grade is when I like kind of shut it off.
Yep.
Because it got really scary and we were getting emotional. And I remember I just said, enough, stop. I don't want you here anymore. You can't do this. And everything stopped. And then I went to high school, and there was a couple things here and there that happened in high school. Not too many. But then again, I was into girls. I was in sports. I was into art because I was painting and drawing in school. You were into all these different activities with other kids, right? So your mind and your world was filled with that. And then kind of the same thing, you went to college. But then in college, I got to know some guys in my fraternity I played football with. Some of them had paranormal experiences, so we talked about it. I had a few experiences in my room in the fraternity, because the fraternity was like 100 years old, the house we lived in. But still, it was sports, it was studies, and it was girls, and it was just in fraternity, so it was all, this was more important to me than talking about, the dead, right?
Right.
Until you get out, you get in the working world, and then you're not around all that distraction, and things start happening in your house and following you. You start saying, okay, I want to research this more. I want to still go out there and start investigating and stuff. And that's what I did in the 90s.
Yeah. And for me, it was a little bit different because in college, the girls actually thought it was cool that I saw a ghost because I saw a full body apparition, and I come running out of the room, and I screaming to everybody. I said, they go, what are you yelling about? I said, there's a ghost in there. Come here, I'll show you. And I was like, oh crap, I just came out again. And but then I got dates, so that was the best part of it because everybody wanted to go with the guy that saw ghosts. So I was like, yeah. So that's why I tease it now. I said that's why I'm still in it for the girls. So
That's funny, man. That's funny.
But it wasn't. My first investigation was 1993, and I've been doing it. But if it wasn't really for my wife, later on in this life, I wouldn't be doing the readings, and I wouldn't be where I am today because she was the one that really full time trusted me. That was like really, you get the glimmers of it throughout your life with the people, but Terry always believed in what I was seeing and what I dreamed. And it took a while for her to change into it, but she saw it, and now she understands it great. But if it wasn't for her, I don't think I would be even here. But that's another thing. That's where Ghostbusters came in, because I don't think we would be where we are in the paranormal without Ghostbusters. Because Ghostbusters made it kind of, and then Shatner, Nimoy's show, and then all of a sudden all the shows started coming. And then
Yeah, I
now we
grew up
are,
watching all that. Yeah.
and then you've been in the shows and TV making it normal. And I think that's where it's all come down. And that's what I like. I mean, it's just becoming more commonplace where people are talking about it.
Well,
And
it is. It's all mainstream now, and it's interesting. You just don't see the type of skeptic attacks you used to see,
right,
15 years ago. I mean, you still do occasionally. It's just because people don't believe, but more people believe now, and more people come forward with their experiences that it's just normal. I mean, you can't go anywhere without someone coming up and telling you a story. I mean, it just happens all the time. And I've been speaking at colleges and universities for 14 years now. Okay. And I like that because I educate the audience, the
mhm,
students that are there, and sometimes the professors. And I've had some really intellectual conversations with not only the students, but engineers and professors that have come forward and shared some of their stories.
right,
But the thing is I'll always ask every single event that I do with the colleges. I start off, introducing myself, and then I ask, how many people in this room, raise your hand, have had a paranormal experience or know someone that has? And you get over 75% that raise their hands. I mean, and this is going on 14 years of over 500 colleges I've been to. The statistics are always the same. Then I ask how many people have never had experience or just don't believe at all, okay, are skeptical, and they raise your hand, you'll get about 10%. So you've got 75% of the people there have had experiences, 10% just don't believe. And it's perfect. And I tell them, listen, that's perfectly okay. It's just you just haven't had experience yet, or you're holding on to something and just not wanting to go down that path, which is completely understandable.
right.
There's nothing negative about it. Like you have some person says, well, I saw a ghost once, but I don't know if I believe. They've only seen it once. So they're skeptical about it. And they're trying to be lost after experience after experience. You have no choice to believe and realize that this is real. There's something going on here. Of course, unless, we get that really small percentage that has some type of schizophrenia or psychological disorder.
Right. Yeah.
But when you get into that, you can get into the little details of that type of diagnosis, and it doesn't always fit when you get into the paranormal, because it gets into other things that's going on with that individual. And if it's not going on with that individual, then it's, they can't be diagnosed that. So it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
It is. And what's really fascinating is all the kids that used to make fun of me all talk to me now. It's so weird.
Yes,
Because
that's the thing.
I went to my high school reunion, right? My high school reunion, and I played football too. And so all the guys that were like, always like, oh, what is you see ghosts, all that. They all come up to me. Hey, I gotta tell you about this story. A whole line came up to me, and then the quarterback and everybody. This time, I think I had like 10 or 15 people were telling me all about their stories at last reunion. I'm just like going, now I'm the quarterback. Yay. I'm not the weird guy anymore. But yeah, it's funny that happened to you too.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's like 360. Things turn around. There was people in grade school or high school or even college that didn't believe and may have teased me, same thing with you.
Yeah.
Growing up, which is fine. I don't hold any grudges or anything personal, because I know it's experience. It's repetitive experience.
Exactly.
And they've reached out to me saying, oh my God, our house is haunted, or my daughter or my kids are seeing stuff. I remember when you talked about this in grade school or high school. What do I do? And I'm just sitting there going, wow, this is kind of nice. Someone that I knew way back when, I can do something for them, their family. It's really interesting. Some of my great friends that had experiences growing up with me as well, they bring up stories. Like my one buddy, he's like, dude, my house is haunted. My kids have experienced it, this and that. He calls me once in a while telling me about some of the stuff that's happened. And it's cool because
Right.
we grew up together, investigating this stuff, doing the Ouija, everything. Then for him to now have a house that's haunted where his kids and his wife are experiencing it, it's just like, he's like, this stuff doesn't scare me because of you. He's like, because you and I used to talk to these things all the time, and we learned from the spirit communication what they are and what they're not. And we know, so my house is haunted. I talk to the spirits. I tell them I'm not, and I set the parameters just like we did when we were younger. So it's kind of like, it's cool. You know, it's
It's
great
very
to
cool.
have someone that was there with you. And he was
Yep.
skeptical at one point. He was skeptical for a period of time,
Okay.
and he slept over at my house. And he says, I want to experience this. I don't believe you. I want to experience this. But he didn't really make fun of me because of it, which
Right.
is cool.
Right,
Some
yeah.
other friends did, but he slept over with another friend, and I'll never forget. You know, we'd sleep in the family room, and I had this big bay window, and we had this big backyard. We lived in a valley, so we had a backyard, and there was a hill in the back. The moonlight would shine through, so that's why we left the curtains there, because we didn't want to sleep in pitch dark. So I'm on the couch, he's on the couch, and the guy's on the floor in a sleeping bag. And all of a sudden I get nudged, and he wakes me up and goes, Chris, do you see it? I go, see what? So I'm rubbing my eyes on him because I'm waking up. He's like, what? Look on the hill. And I see on the hill, you see this white thing coming down the hill. I'm like, what is that? He goes, I don't know. Is that a bag? I go, it can't be a bag. It's glowing, right? And all of a sudden it starts taking the shape of a woman in a dress. And as it's coming further down the hill, it's coming closer and closer to us. It comes to the porch, the cement porch I got. Then it comes up to the window, and then boom, it's gone. And they scream like, ah, like it's gone. And they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, yes. They saw their first ghost.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But it was it was collective because all three of us saw it. Right. So now I knew, because of the ridicule that I was getting in grade science, now just saw something with me. I knew they go back to school and they would tell kids, his house is haunted. He does see, he's afraid. They got off on the adrenaline rush of being scared, but then nothing happens. It's just your own fear, and then it's gone. That they wanted to have more experiences. So they would sleep over all the time, and we do the Ouija board, and we started having other things happen. And it was like, we used to laugh about it. You know, other kids would be out playing sports, which we did once in a while too, but we'd be sitting there with the Ouija board, and we would be talking to the spirits. In grade, we're talking like between third grade and like seventh grade.
Wow, that's amazing.
We're doing. So
you know Patrick Burns, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Patrick and I, just so you know, we go way back. We actually worked at Six Flags Great America together, and we didn't find it out till later in life. And he always mentioned in his lectures about this guy that he worked with at Six Flags that would always tell him about ghosts, and they weren't scary. And then we were at an event, and he comes to me, and I said to him, I said, why don't you be on my radio show? He goes, yeah, I'll come on. And we were talking, and I said to him, I said, yeah, because I'm from around the Chicago area. I'm up in Racine. And he goes, oh God, so am I. And I said, well, I worked in Illinois. He goes, where'd you work? I said, Six Flags. He said, so did I. I said, yeah, and what year did you work? He goes, I worked in '97. I said, so did I. I said, really, this is cool so far. So what ride you work? He goes, the American Eagle. I said, so did I. And then we looked at each other, and we knew who we were then. And
wow,
because back then, because we were all younger, I was in college and he was just finishing high school, I think it was, because we're a few years apart. And he was there, and he kind of looked like Egon Spengler. So I'd always make him say on the mics on the American Eagle, I collect spores, molds, and fungus. I always made him say it. I even till the day, I'll always go up to Patrick. I'll go, Patrick, say it. And he always, I collect spores, molds, and fungus. So if you ever see him, tell him to say it, and he'll know exactly where it came from.
yeah. Years ago, he stayed at my house, him and Marley, for a short period of time. They were traveling through. They had stayed at my house, so we had done some spirit stuff and everything. And I know we had done a lot of events together in the past. I mean, that's like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's a good guy. Good guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. But you talk about how the coolness happens, and that was so cool. Here's a guy that would later be on TV and the thing that I actually helped him as a medium, who I'm later on TV and things, and we're both come back together, and now we've been friends ever since. And then I was friends with Marley before they got together. So it's just kind of funny how everything gets everything goes.
I gotta tell you a story about Patrick. We were at the Stanley Hotel, and we were staying in this like little bungalow.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember who else was in there with us, but I know he was upstairs. He had a room upstairs, and I had a room on the first floor. We had our own kitchen and everything. And we both came back to get our equipment to go do the investigation with the groups.
Okay.
So I went back in, I got my bottle of water, and then Patrick's racing down the stairs. And all of a sudden, he goes flying headfirst with his equipment. Boom, 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 down. And he lands in this kind of like contorted way. and his legs over his head, and his head's there, and he's like, oh, I'm like, are you okay? Because I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna break his neck.
Right.
And he goes, a ghost pushed me. I'm like, what? And his eyes are like deers in headlights.
Right.
I got shoved. I go, are you freaking kidding me? And because we were having stuff hacked at bungalow, and then a couple years later, I was there again but the way he looked at me, a ghost pushed me. I was shoved. Like something you would see a line in a movie. And it was just, I looked at him. I'm not even thinking about that. I'm like, dude, are you okay?
Right.
Because that looked painful, right? But he got right back up, dusted himself off, and went to work. Went right to go do the event. I'm like, that's gotta hurt, right?
It's gotta be tough.
He's right back in.
He's a spry young man. I would have been hurt.
Yes, he is.
I would have been hurt. I would have been.
Yeah, I would have been like,
oh my gosh, that's too funny.
Right. Oh, the other thing is, like I took bet we would be investigating whether it was Queen Mary, Stanley Hotel, whatever. It's pitch dark, and all of a sudden you start hearing this rustling sound, this banging and knocking and everything. What the hell is that? He is so noisy in the dark. I don't know anybody else in the field that is as noisy as him. We're trying to, so I'm just getting situated, and we have to wait till he gets completely situated with all his equipment. Everything would be like so loud. Oh my God. Every single event. It was so funny. So funny. I go, let me guess. It's Patrick.
Yeah. What's even funnier is Terry is a sorority sister with Marley. They're both Alpha Z Deltas. So, it's just weird how the world just falls together and everybody falls together and becomes friends. We went to their wedding, and I love Patrick and Marley, two greatest people around.
Yeah,
he needs to get back on TV. So
he's great. I mean, I tell you what, his methodology and his some of the stuff you would get would be awesome at some of the events we were at, and him and I when we were at Rolling Hills, right. And Queen Mary and stuff. It's just great stuff. Jackie, when we're talking to Jackie, and
right.
Yeah,
it was fun. So, what's your new Well, here I just saw this, and somebody told me about this. You're having problems at your house. What's going on?
Oh,
you guys
occasionally have stuff.
Just like a day or so. Somebody, I think.
Well, the last 2 weeks. Yeah, the last 2 weeks there's been stuff going on, and there may be a reason why.
Okay.
There was the one night. The first night it was like 12:30 a.m. I said, I'm gonna have a bowl of cereal. So I go and I have some granola. I'm sitting there eating cereal, and then I hear this tapping on the window. I have these glass panes near my front door. I'm hearing this tapping, like long nails hitting and I turn around going, are you freaking kidding me? Because I know it would sound like there's somebody there tapping with their fingernails on the pane. So I look over, I don't see anybody, but I have an alarm system. So the alarm system would have picked somebody up on the camera. It would have went, beep. It's recorded somebody. There's somebody at the front door. It would have said somebody at the front door. Didn't say that. So I'm like, all right, it's one of you elementals or some of the spirits, whatever. I'm getting back to eating my cereal. The next night, I get in bed and I wake up hearing this rapid knocking on my front door. Boom, 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 like pounding, right? And then I hear it. I'm like, who the frick is that? I'm like, there's no way, because this has happened before in the past where there'd be knocking on the door or the doorbell would ring and there's nobody there. Now remember, I got a camera on the door. So I go, Alexa, what time is it? The time is 3:54 a.m. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, stop. I'm yelling in my house, stop. Ghost, stop. I got to sleep. Then I wake up, I feel somebody beside the bed leaning over because the bed's getting kind of scrunched, and I feel something laying on me. So I wake up and I turn, there's nothing there. I feel it move away. It's like right in your face, and then it moves away. I said, get away from me, leave me alone. So you just woke me up. So now the second time I was woken up, same night.
Wow.
Then it's I think it was about 6:30 in the morning, 7 in the morning. I fall back asleep, and then I hear a gunshot that goes off in my head. Gunshot, right? I jump up and I got this massive headache. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Now, I know I've done research on it. They call it exploding head syndrome, but it's just a theory because they can't explain it. Well, there'll be this loud noise that you'll hear in your head and it will wake you up, but nobody knows what this is. It's kind of similar to sleep paralysis. You know, the theories they have just doesn't fit with what's actually happening. So that was 3. What happens is when you have an infestation or you have something negative in the house that's trying to affect you, it'll do a sequence of 3 that night to wake you up, to disturb your sleep, to start to enforce, oppression, to get you exhausted and start wearing you down. I said, oh my God. I said, okay, so this is going on. Well, then later that day, I get a message from Bill Vale. Bill Vale was on the Paranormal Witness episode called The Visitors. And back in 2014, when I saw that episode, I contacted him on Facebook because he had similar experiences to what I had growing up with these little creatures. So I got him on Facebook. The next day, we were on the phone for 3.5 hours. And, that was going back to 2014. Then I interviewed him on one of my podcasts. Well, I get an email from him that he wanted to talk to me, that someone had started talking about his story and they had the story wrong. So he was upset about that. So he and I jumped on the phone that day and we talked. I'm like, well, that's interesting. I had the oppression interaction last night that woke me up 3 times. And the next day I get a message from Bill. This tends to be the same thing that we're talking about, these little creatures doing this. So I'm like, I think they knew he was going to be contacting me. So they were doing that. Well, we talked on the phone. I said, Bill, I want to interview you for another podcast, get it up to speed on what's been going on 6 years since we talked. So I've scheduled to interview him. The next night after that, I wake up to this moaning, this like agony type moaning coming from the corner of my bedroom. And I sit up going, what the hell? And then it's gone. And I'm like, I heard you. And I'm like, wow, that's like a couple days in a row. I've had 3 times now, 3 different nights. I've had things happen. And I'm like, all right, something's going on. So I go back to bed. That was like last Friday, I believe it was, because then Saturday I did the prison, the old Joliet prison investigation with public. And then Sunday night, okay, this is a couple days ago. Sunday night, I'm like, all right, I'm going to bed. It's like 1 o'clock, put my head on the pillow. Then I hear what sounds like a child doll laughing, like, like from a doll, right? I don't have any dolls. I don't have any dolls in my house that make those noises.
Right.
But I hear it coming from the closet. It's the same closet that I saw the creature come out of in 2009 that I did the drawing of. And I sit up going, I'm looking around the room going, are you freaking kidding me? I've never heard anything like that before unless I've heard it in some toy store with a doll or you see on some horror movie.
Right.
Is this what it's become now? You guys are taking some like little doll sound. What does that mean? Right. So I took my phone, I started filming and I put it on Instagram. I just start filming like I heard you, this and that. I try to do that when something happens or right after something happened if I don't have it ready to go. So I just kind of filmed that. I said, I don't have time for this. I got to sleep because I was up till 3:30 the night before, a couple nights before I didn't sleep at all. I don't mess around. Like I don't get, some people freak out and they sleep with the lights on. They can't get back to sleep. I got to go back to sleep. And when you've had this happen a lot, you just go back to sleep.
Right.
So I haven't had anything happen since Sunday night. I did a little bit of a cleansing on Monday and I kind of figured it out. But then here's the weird thing. On Monday, I'm going through my emails and I see that Barry, my co-host in the UK, did a seminar Sunday night on haunted dolls. And I'm sitting there going, are you freaking kidding me? So there's a correlation with what Barry's doing in the UK. So this has got to be the imps. They got to be messing around. They got to be messing around that either because I'm going to be talking to Bill Vale or when we start filming again, we're going to have a case that involves them and they don't want us getting involved. So they're messing with us now. Because in talking to Barry today, I spoke to him today on Skype.
Okay.
He's having some stuff happen in his house right now too.
Oh, okay.
So what that means is, and people may not understand this, you need to understand that spirits and certain entities, they're not limited by time and space. They can go backward in time to affect us because they're not attached to the third dimension, which is limited to time and space. Look at quantum physics, in science and everything, they'll tell you about this. When you move away from that dimension, there are other forms where there's no time, there's timelessness. So they're in this dimension where there's no time. So they can be in our future where we're already there experiencing. So sometimes they'll go back in time to try to affect us. It's crazy, but it's what we're finding out in a lot of our investigations. Right. So we tend to document some of this stuff, and then later on we see if it correlates with what we're doing in these investigations in the future.
Wow, that's pretty impressive, I think. I know it's a pain in the butt for you to have it happen, but for you, to have that happen and them keep coming back to you, that's pretty incredible.
Did you move any paper or move anything across the desk?
No.
Did you hear that distortion?
Mm-mm.
All right, whoever's listening to this, if people are able to play this back later, listen to right before I'm talking right now. I heard some type of distortion. So I don't know if that is just distortion or if that is some type of voice, because we do tend to get voices sometimes on these calls, Right.
And I know, I know I had a student yesterday we were doing, and she kept hearing voices the whole time when we were doing our class. So there might be some stuff around, because even today, you talk about that on Shriya, I was laying in bed or on the couch this morning and I fell asleep. And all of a sudden I woke up with this big shrill, it was in my head. It wasn't like a gun sound, but it was like a shrill, and there was nothing here. It's like, I woke up and go, okay, who wants me? Why am I have to get up right now? You know how that goes. So.
Yeah, it's interesting because people understand is that when I have certain experiences and stuff like that, and if it's something that I haven't had experience before, when I research it, or just people have had. So back to when we were at it was Saddle Creek Lodge or something like that. I remember sleeping. All of a sudden, I hear this screaming, and I see this woman like a witch type face screaming in my face. Mm-hmm. And I open up my eyes, and there's nobody there. But it was screaming so loud, it was a frequency that like almost fried my brain. My brain hurt so bad. And then I've had other experiences where I'll hear a scream, a yell, a big bang, an explosion, or whatever in the dream state that is so loud it almost blows your eardrum, but your brain, because your brain's got a filter, but it can only filter so much. But when it's internal, it's so loud that I was getting this repeatedly. And I remember, because I had gotten a concussion in 2009 from a car accident, and I got one when I played football twice in college. And I started having this. And so I started researching, is this related to the concussion? And the specialist is like, no. He's like, that's, you might want to, and I went and did other research, and I found out it's called exploding head syndrome. So there are other people around the world that have had this type of phenomena, but they call it exploding head, which really doesn't fit. My head ain't exploding. It feels like it's exploding because of the pain.
Right.
But what I believe it is remember that we are conscious energy. We are energy that is going within inside this body. The brain is a receiver. When you have a cell phone, you have a radio, whatever, a TV, sometimes if it gets distortion or feedback, right? Mm-hmm. It creates that sound. Well, our brains are sometimes doing that for individuals that are able to kind of tune in and out of that frequency, that can go into different places or dimensions, astral travel, connect non-locally. You're kind of distorting that frequency where you're getting some of that feedback, getting stuff that exists in between.
Right.
Because our brains are filtered. And what I also studied was talking to bioneural feedback. And I got a QEEG done on my brain a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago. And it was incredible how they mapped it out with varying frequencies. And they showed where my brain was over amplified or under amplified. From 10 hertz to 14 hertz, those frequencies, my brain is over amplified. So what does that mean? It means that my brain in certain frequencies is more sensitive than other people in picking up frequencies within that range and hearing them. Now, the interesting thing about this, because I had some great intellectual conversations with the doctor and the neurologist, and we're talking about this, and I said, so So how many different categories of brain frequencies? Where everybody, if we lined all those 1,000 people up, everybody has a different, what am I in? As well, we decided that was too crazy. We used to have 100 different categories. Now we've narrowed it down to 30. But over 1,000 exist. So what does that mean? What that means is, because I discussed this with them, AP, okay, they will hear one thing, but other people will hear different things. Is because they're not hearing the entire frequency. They're only hearing bits and pieces of those frequencies because their brain is only tuned into those specific frequencies. 12
Hey, Chris, can we have you sit back? Because you had better signal.
EVPs. Some of them, G of them, we would be able to tell science because their brain made a different thing. And then the other ones are matching up because their brain's different. But that's just, yeah, there's a scientific reason brain emits and receives, and that is important. So
we need you to sit back just a little bit, Chris.
Yeah, it's just, there's not much I can do.
No, I know, I understand. And it's
Can you hear me?
good, but when you sat back by that doll that's picking its nose, it didn't give you better signal.
Oh, it's doing this. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, now I can hear you better. So
Okay. Yeah, no, a lot of it has to do with not pareidolia when you're talking about hearing frequencies. It has to do with the individual's brain frequency that is different. So it may be under amplified or under sensitive to hear that frequency. And then some people definitely hear it because their brain is over amplified. And that to me is fascinating because we're not even thinking about that in a lot of our paranormal research.
correct.
And it was
So-
like, I'll give you an example real quick. Is when we were at a house investigating, and it was on Help My House is Haunted, and Barry Guy is there, and I felt like something came through the radio, but I didn't hear it. Barry heard it. He goes, "Didn't you hear that?" I'm like, "No, I didn't hear it." And then the other guy says, "Oh my God, I heard it." And Barry's like, "What did you hear?" The guy says what he heard, and Barry's like, "Exactly, that's what I heard." He's like, "Well, how come two of us heard it, but the entire production crew, Jane, Chris, and the other people here didn't hear it?" And Barry's like, "Well, I don't know, but I'm deaf in my left ear." The guy goes, "So am I." Both of them were deaf in the left ear. So that means their brain frequency to adjust to that would over amplify the right side, but also frequencies would be different. They both were able to hear this. And when we played back the recorder, there it was there. But the rest of us could not hear it as a direct voice phenomena, but both of them could. That's because their brain frequencies were tuned in a way it was able to recognize that frequency.
That's right.
See, that's incredible.
And now that you were talking about that, the exploding brain, maybe that's what I got this morning, just to understand what you're talking about, because it was loud. It was my head, and I woke up and I was like, wow, wait, what? And it just came out of nowhere, and I've never had that happen before. So that was my first time. But now I understand what it is.
Right. And the thing is, you can train your brain to become more sensitive to certain frequencies by repetition, by listening and focusing on that frequency. And then you can adjust yourself out of it to where you don't hear it. And we know that from listening to frequencies and sound over and over and over again. And then when you have someone listen to it over and over and over, then they can hear it because their brain is starting to tune into hearing that. And that's a lot of things that people don't realize. Your brain can tune in to start to hear those frequencies over repetition.
I agree. So how'd your new show come about?
I had talked to Zach years ago about an idea that I had. We tossed it around, and then he had started doing some different things, this and that, and then he went over to the UK and he pitched, the concept, and it got picked up. And then next thing you know, we were filming. I got called. We matched up with Zach and everything.
He's freezing again. Sorry about that.
we started filming. The first season was, I think we filmed 2017.
Right.
And then we filmed the second season 2019. And now we're just waiting, for travel and everything else to open up so we can start in season 3. In my conversation earlier, but we're also helping spirits. My mom.
Are you? That's great.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Yeah.
You're back.
Can you? Okay. Yeah, it's going to be the signal because where I'm at, I'm going down from 2 bars down to 1 bar and a marginal bar.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The most of what you're saying, we're getting. So it's good. Everybody's understanding. It's just
Okay,
once in a while, people think that you're an alien, and I go, well, that's what it is normally.
hey, Mom, do you want to come here and say anything? My mom's eating a brownie. She says, no, I'm eating a brownie. Okay. I'm live on Facebook.
We heard her clear.
I'm not getting on Facebook. Okay. My mom still likes to lead private life, so.
Yeah, that's good though.
She's shy.
Even though she has the gifts.
That's right. Right. No, my mom's, she mostly had dreams about plane crashes because she was a flight attendant. And I remember she had said Chris was going to be a plane. No, I know. That's what I was saying. The airplane crashes. And she just said they always happen that day or that week. Yeah, like flight 191, she goes, there's going to be a terrible crash. And next thing you know, there was. And then obviously she was on the airline, flight 800. She was on that plane like a month before it crashed.
Wow.
And because she worked for TWA. And
Right.
She was going through the aisle and she started feeling something and her whole body was contorting, was feeling this horrific fear and this terror and that something was wrong. And then she started crawling up the galley. And when she was crawling up the galley, one of their flight attendants, Pat, what is wrong? What's wrong with you? And she's like, something's going to happen to this plane. She goes, what do you mean something's going to happen to this plane? And then who was it that came out? Mom, the controller, the electrician guy? What is it called? Mom.
He's enjoying the brownie.
Yeah. One of the other guys that was on the plane, working on the plane, he says, well, I hope it doesn't happen on this flight, right?
Right.
He was on the plane when it crashed.
Oh my God.
When it crashed a month later. And my mom's, she's like, this plane is going to end up in the water because, you'd fly over the water a lot when you were in New York and stuff like that.
Right.
And she goes, it's going to be in the water. And like, well, God, we hope it doesn't happen on our flight. And then I remember because I was home and she called me. She got a phone call. It was back then we had the phones on we didn't have cell phones. And the phone rang and she went and picked it up. Oh, no, it was one of her friends. I picked it up and my sister did. And Mom, it's for you. She goes, well, I'm busy. And she goes, no, it's, one of the flights. She said, it's urgent. So she thought maybe it was my mom had to do a layover or there's some flight. She had to get on a flight because they needed somebody. She goes, are you watching TV? Her friend was saying on the plane. She was like, no. She goes, turn on the TV. So we turned the TV on and you saw the news footage showing the pieces floating in the water and saying TWA has crashed, right? My mom's like, oh my God. She sits down. She goes, I flew that plane. And it came true. I go, what do you mean it came true? And then she told us, the vision that she had. Right. Now, it wasn't a dream. It was a vision. She was on that plane and she felt that. The sad thing is that one guy, that one controller, he was on that plane as well that crashed. The other flight attendant my mom worked with wasn't. But after that, she'd flown for 30 years. She says, I can't fly anymore. I'm terrified of flying now. So she shortly after that, she retired.
Oh, wow.
By the way, it was shot down. It was shot down by a missile. The question is that they believe it might have been the Navy flying at a certain altitude. They told TWA carrier actually missed the decoy and ended up hitting the TWA plane. So because it was a special secret, top secret missile and what they were doing, that's why they never went public with it. So they covered it up. That was the one scenario that everybody believed. The other one, they thought maybe it was a terrorist attack, that someone was on had a guided missile on a boat, because a boat took off, because they do know that there was a boat that took off that was on the radar that they were tracking, and it disappeared. So it was definitely shot down. It wasn't mechanical failure. The plane didn't break apart, on its own. It was shot down. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can. I got a question from the chat room that I'm trying to get, so.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. About the missile shooting down. Terry's listening in the chat room. She wants you to re-explain something, so I'm trying to get that so we can have you re-explain it again.
Okay.
And it takes about 30 seconds to get into it, so. But yeah, no, we hear about 95, 96% of the stuff he's giving you, so it's working good. I can understand it. Maybe because I'm psychic.
Yeah.
Return display. Oh yeah, so Devin asked in the chat room, has your mom had these even after she retired though? The visions?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The one time she was telling me, be careful driving. Like she was, I'm going to tell the angels to protect you. And I remember I had left the office. I was working at a newspaper. This would have been in 90, I might have been 92, 93. And I had worked until like 2:30 in the afternoon. I went to Lifetime Fitness to work out, and then I was driving home, and I was starting to doze off, real. And I had surgery a couple weeks before, so I was on certain medications, stuff like that. And all of a sudden, I hear this angel just say, "Put your seatbelt on." There was no law to seatbelt. And it says, "Put your seatbelt on." I'm like, "Why?" "No, I'm not gonna put my seatbelt on." It says, "Put your seatbelt on." So I went, I go, "Fine." And then sure enough, I'm getting to this intersection and something tells me to go left. I say, "No, I'm gonna go straight." And I go left. I go, "No, I'm going straight." I was very stuck on being tourist. So I'm going straight. I'm going down this road. And the sun's coming. It was very hypnotic. And I started dozing off. I started going in incoming traffic. A car honks its horn. I wake up going straight towards this car. So I swerved further to the left because his post took out the brake line to my car. Now I had no brakes, and I'm going like 35. And then I hit this big rock, and my tire goes up into the axle brakes and body of the car. I'm rolling over. I close my eyes and getting pelted with change and stuff. And I just bought this Chevy Blazer, and it's now old. And I'm hanging upside down, and I undo the seatbelt. I'm like, "Oh my God." I was only four houses down. So I got out of the car. I raced them back to the car. Like, they're looking at me. "Oh, I'm fine." I was. "Be careful. I'm going to tell angels to protect you." I had this bad feeling. And he shouted and told me if I didn't put the seatbelt on, I could have broke my neck. Could have broke my neck because of the rollover.
Right. That's amazing. But I'm glad you listened. And that's
Well, of course.
I tell everybody, but they don't. I have a story about Terry's mom that I always tell, that she doesn't quite believe in what I do and what Terry and I see and the spiritual belief we are. But one night she was driving back and she heard a voice say stop, and she actually stopped, and the car came through the intersection, and I always say, ta-da, there's spirit helping you, and she doesn't believe in this. So it's cool that when people listen, because spirit's really trying to help us out.
Oh, it saved my life multiple times, and it saved others. And there's times that I didn't listen. I argued with, well, maybe I can change it. I consequences, and my neck injury is one of the consequences.
Right, exactly.
So some of them you don't listen and you suffer.
Right.
Can you hear me?
Now I can. I got you back.
Okay. There must be a delay. I think there's a delay.
Yeah, there's a delay by a couple seconds, so it's okay. I mean, everybody's been hearing most of it, so that's a good thing, and everybody loves it. So, you're doing great. I know we talked about one thing at the beginning of the show that you wanted to talk about was kind of like what you saw for the future and kind of what we're in right now.
Yeah. In January 2011. I had this vision. There was something that was going on, and I saw all this. I started seeing all these images, and one of the images I saw Obama, and then I saw Obama talking, addressing the nation, and then it was like what we have now with Time Machine with Mac, is that you can go through all the different panels of present and the past, and all of a sudden he's gone, and then I start seeing all these military in the streets in all black, like police with all black masks. I see fire, I see smoke. And then I see people rioting like crazy, fires and all that type of stuff. Then I see tanks, military vehicles, and then I start to see a war. I spoke about this at a lot of the Darkness radio events in 2011, 2012. I talked about it on radio shows. I know you and I talked about it in the past on one of your radio shows.
Yes,
and I talked about, there was going to be martial law. I saw that this image, I'm with my mom and we're watching TV and we can't leave the house. We have to stay in the house. There's these curfews and we're stuck. I can't go anywhere. I can't go to the gym anymore. The gym is shut down. And I'm seeing these images going, well, what the hell's happening? It must be because of the martial law. We can't go anywhere. So that's what I'm assuming. But we can't leave the house. We're stuck in the house. And I talked about this 2011, 12, 13. And then I'm like, okay, Obama's going to serve a second term. I thought it was going to happen with Obama. But what was wrong, that I had wrong, was because I saw Obama and then he disappeared and I saw all these things after him, I thought it was going to be that he was attached to this. It was after him that all these events were going to happen, which means the next president, right? But what's interesting is Obama's also always popping up during this time period anyway. Yes. There is no other person besides Trump himself that has talked about more during this administration than Obama. Right. And by seeing this, it's just crazy. And then last year, I had a dream, an astral dream. I knew I was somewhere else because I could look at my hands, and I'm walking with this prophet, and it was one of the apostles, and the apostle saying, listen, there's these waves coming. I need you to listen to me. It's very important. I don't want you to drown in the tide. I go, what do you mean tide? He goes, it's a metaphor. He said, Chris, in my time period 2,000 years ago, we would speak to the people. And when we spoke to the people, it was all truth. Our intent was pure. It was all truth. And everybody listened. There was no distractions. It's different now for you. There are many seas. And in all these seas, everybody's going, listen to me. I'm the one you should listen to. Or I'm the one telling the truth. Or they're not telling the truth, but I'm telling the truth. This and that. He goes, all these people are screaming for attention on your social media and everything else. People are getting confused. And there's this tide that's building because these waves are coming. When this wave hits, everybody's going to be pulled down in this tide because they're going to be saying, listen to me, or this is the way, or that's what it is, or this is what it is. Then there's going to be another tide, and then another tide, and another tide. I don't want you to be arguing and debating and getting caught up in this tide because they're all confused. You must stay on your boat and get to dry land and remember why you're here and what your purpose is. Otherwise, you're going to get caught up in this tide and you're going to drown like all these other people. So I'm like, okay. And then next thing you know, I see all these other people that are around us. Like he was talking to all of them, but he was talking to me one-on-one, but he's also talking to them one-on-one. Then it was over with. And I woke up going, wow, that was prophetic. And then I had my coffee, had my breakfast, and I sat down, I wrote it all out on Facebook. So it's on Facebook, bits and pieces of what I saw from last year. May of last year, 2019, I wrote this down called The Wave. Then I reread it and spoke about it on Instagram. It's on my Instagram videos, Instagram TV on my Instagram. You'll be able to watch it. It's called The Wave.
That's there. Yeah.
And what it meant was there was these waves coming, which are these events, which obviously we've been going through. And then January 1st of 2020, I didn't go out. I stayed in and I'm watching Netflix. And I remember sitting there going, okay, what's 220 going to be like? And then boom, I get hit with all these images. And I'm like, wow, this year is going to suck. And I'm like, this is going to be the worst year where everything changes. And I'm sitting there thinking that I may die, that something may happen to me and I may die. And I'm like, oh my God, this might be my last year on this planet. And then I'm saying, what's happening? And then I saw all these events that were happening. And I'm like, holy cow. Well, and I remember I wasn't drinking, but I just toasted. I said, you know what? Well, here's to our life up until this point and how society and everything else we know is going to change. And then I just sat there. The next day, January 1st, I got on Facebook, Twitter, and I started writing this stuff. And then I'm like, you know what? Everyone's going to attack me because everybody's making like, Happy New Year's. Everything's going to be great. I'm going to do all these things. Everybody's being positive, and I'm about to say that 220 is going to suck. I deleted it. And I said, I can't do this because I'm going to get criticized and be skeptical. I'm like, when is this going to start? And this voice says, within 3 to 4 months, this is going to start. I'm like, so I started to put that, then I didn't. Then a couple of days later, I said, you know what? What's the outcome? The final outcome? War. So I went, and it's still on Twitter. It says 2020 war. I left that. I said, I'm just leaving that then. That's it. I told some of my friends. My friends were like, dude, why you're being negative, man? I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to hear this. Nobody wanted to hear it. I said, I'm telling you, nobody wanted to hear it. I said, okay, fine. The only person that ever listened to me was Dave Schrader. Right. Dave, I told Dave's like, well, shit, I hope not, man. I'm doing this show now and everything. And, I got a beautiful wife and I said, Dave, I'm telling you, it's like, Chris, you've been talking about this for years. Dave, the wave last year and what I saw, this is the year. So the pandemic hits, right? And what do they start calling it? A wave. Then this is hitting. We're at shelter in place. It's, oh my God, this is it. The shelter in place. This is where it's not martial law. It's this pandemic. We're stuck at home. Well, martial law is coming. Looting's coming. The rioting's coming. And then my buddy's arguing with me in New York that, he's like, dude, why don't you write everything down and send it to me and we'll see what happens. I'm like, dude, I'm not doing that because I know what's coming. And then next thing you know, the riots and the looting happened. And I'm like, oh my God. Then there was a picture that was on Huffington Post. And I retweeted this a couple of weeks ago when I saw that the military police walking forward in all black and this smoke. That was the exact image, which means the event hadn't happened yet. Now the event happened. It was captured in that photograph. So that was it. I said, this is it. Well, what's coming next? Well, there's going to be more waves, man. There's more waves because the martial law, the official martial law has not happened yet. That's coming. So I'm not exactly sure what causes that. Is there going to be more riots? Going to be more looting? Is there going to be another where people stand up? But what I did say in a couple of radio shows the past couple of years, let's just assume what is going to cause all these things. So I started saying, well, I saw a racial war. I saw people against the police. I stated this. And that because that's going to be this inner turmoil that's going to cause this civil unrest, which leads to a civil war. There's going to be a civil war. But while the civil war and everything else is going on, other armies in other countries are going to start building up to prepare for a war against us because we're going to be at our weakest. Why that exactly happens, I'm not exactly sure. But this is the sequence of things. So we have to not get into this civil war. We have to stop whatever's going to happen to initiate martial law to where we go under this new rule. And the question is, though, I think that this is going to start to happen in the fall when we get towards the election. Now, here's the interesting thing. When I was on Mancow in January 2017, on Inauguration Day, I was in the studio in Chicago, and I'm sitting there. And I didn't say much because I was tired. I had to get up there and be there at 5 a.m, right? And then I was there all day, and then they start showing the president and everything, Trump starting getting inaugurated. And we're looking at it on the screen. He says, so Chris is, what's his presidency going to be like? I go, what do you mean? He says, what do you see? Is he going to serve a second term? I said, well, I don't see him serving a second term. And they said, why? I said, he gets removed. Like, what do you mean he gets removed? I said, well, I see martial law. I see rioting, looting. I see police, and then I see a war. And he's like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, sure. And everybody's looking at me, and I'm like, oh, I'm telling you, we're going to be stuck at home. This is going to happen, and that's it. And I just was short. I was right to the point. And he says, so is he going to be assassinated? Is he going to be shot? I said, no, I don't see that. I just somehow, some way he's going to be removed. And so after that, I always posted on my social media, Trump's going to be removed. He's going to be removed. And it's not that I mean, yes, I don't like the guy. Okay. I liked him when he was on Apprentice. I like him in other ways, but as a president, having compassion, having ethical and this and that regarding leading a country, he falls short. Okay. Now I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican because I voted for either in the last 20 years during elections. I like whatever candidate I believe in, I vote for. So it has nothing to do with it. It just has to do with what I'm seeing. So I can't tell you why that's going to happen, but I see it happening. If it doesn't happen, I'm wrong. Right? I'm wrong. But the scary thing is though, what's going on now? I've been right. That I saw back in January 2011, that the wave is talking about. So to see this, it's scary. And here's one last thing I want to share with you, okay? And I told Barry and I told Sandy when we were doing the first season, I also told Jane. When we were doing the Ouija board, when I was with my friend Blue and Brian, and we used to do all these different sessions, is we would ask interesting questions. We would ask about life on other planets, and it said Europa, that there's life. I said, what type of life? It said plant and bacteria life. Now, this is back in 1977. Okay. Right. Now we know they theorized that there is some plant or bacterial life on Europa. All right. Now, I also asked, and I remember this, I asked, is there going to be another world war? Because we were studying World War II or Korea War, or whatever it was in grade school. So I said, is there going to be another world war? And I said, yes. And I said, when? They said between 2017 and 2022. Now remember, this is 1978. When you're a kid, when you're like 9 years old, 10 years old, that's like way in the future. You're not even.
Woo, that's way back there. Yeah.
So I'm like, 2017, that's like a sci-fi movie, right? So I asked the board, I said, where am I going to be when this happens? It spells out Europe. I go, Europe? So I'm thinking, why would I be in Europe? I said, okay, if there's a war and I'm in Europe, am I in the military? No. Am I in the government? No. Well, what am I doing in Europe? It says, you're speaking to us. I'm speaking to you. In 2017, 2020, I'm going to be speaking to you on a Ouija board. It says, no, you'll be speaking to us. And I'm like, all right. Didn't think anything else of it, right? 2017, I was in Europe speaking to spirits. 2019, I was in Europe speaking to spirits.
Yeah.
50% of that prophecy they stated has come true so far. So yeah, I'm a little scared. Okay. Right. So we have to be careful from 2020 to 2022 that we do not get in a world war. How did they know? Listen, when I was a little kid, I didn't think I'd be talking to ghosts doing anything. I wanted to be a fireman, okay, or an artist. That's it. I didn't think I'd be doing this. And here I am doing this. And I may be going back this fall, filming third season again in Europe. And if the series continues, I'll continue to be in Europe. Yeah. So what? Why? Mom's telling me there's a baby deer in the backyard. Where?
Look out from the living room.
We get to see the deer. This is cool.
You see it?
Yes, I do.
Oh my God. Hi.
There's usually more around.
Oh my gosh.
You should have looked out the living room window.
Oh, I know. It's like it's coming forward.
Coming
Should I
right
go
to
out
us.
there?
No, no.
Oh, it just took off. There it goes. So looking for its mom?
Yeah.
Aw.
Lost its phone. I heard something.
Oh no. Oh no. What do we do?
Put a,
Nothing.
little, put a little bread for him on the porch.
What? Put bread?
Put a little bread on him on the porch.
Okay, Mom, can we put bread on the porch for it? To feed it? Yeah. Oh, Mom, there's another one too. I see another one in the distance. Oh, there's the mother. There's a mother in the distance.
Oh, okay. Oh,
There's-
isn't that
there's-
so cool that we get to see that? That's so amazing.
There's a couple of them. And I'm just gonna scare it so it goes back out to them. Oh man. Oh,
This is so cool.
amazing, dude. This is amazing.
I know this is wonderful.
Okay, it's running. Yeah, it's running back to the. Oh, there it is. It's with its mom. It's with its mom, Mom.
Oh,
It's with its mom. My mom's getting mad. She want the bugs in the house. Anyway,
that's
that
cute.
was
Everybody's
Yeah.
saying, oh, everybody's loving it.
did you guys got to see it, right?
Yes, we did. It was great.
Oh,
It was
that's cool.
amazing.
Beautiful. Isn't it weird? It came all the way up here to the porch.
Yeah, because if it's looking for his mom, that if it's with his mom, you don't feed them. But if they're by themselves, then give them some so they have enough nourishment to keep it located.
Yeah, no, I saw the adult one in the bushes in the back there, and then I saw some other ones that were outside the bushes because there's farmland there.
Okay.
I saw them, so there was a whole bunch of them.
They all came together, so that's good. At least they'll be
Yeah.
she'll be taken care of now, so that's beautiful.
Exactly.
So people say,
Otherwise, it's going to get attacked by predators.
yeah, people say that you're now Snow White. Thinking all
Yeah,
that.
that's right. I've got the birds and the rabbits in front of
Yep.
my house, and now I've got deer coming up to me. Right
Yep, you're Snow White.
now, I just need some elves, some trolls and elves.
That's me. I'm one.
Right.
I'm dopey.
That's right. What is it? What is the song they used to sing? I can't remember.
Hi ho, hi ho. We're off to-
Yeah, hi ho, hi ho. We're off to work we go. Well, I got the elementals, so
Good. You do. You are definitely your Snow Chris.
snow.
That's
So
amazing.
anyway, what else, man?
So I had a question, and this, and I know you're friends with Zach and everything, but so tell me about the Dybbuk box. That's what I wanted to know.
Oh, okay. What I do know about it, I mean, I've never opened it or seen what's inside it, but
I
I'll tell
heard
you
he
the two
just
things
did.
that I do know.
Okay, good. And I heard you just did. So that's why I
Oh, you
wanted yeah.
I can only tell you when I've been there, the two times I was there in that room with that box. The first
Okay.
time was on Adventures Live.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see much because it was so dark and I didn't have my glasses like I do now. But I had the spirit box and I was with Gary Galka. We had the spirit box.
Mhm.
And I don't know, because I didn't even watch the episode, so I don't know what was on and what wasn't. All I know is Gary and I were looking at this box and I said, what is inside this box? And it said fear. I said fear. And it said feed the fear. And then it said something about children. I go, there's no children here. You're pretending to be children. And then it laughed. It says, yes. I said, what are these children? It said imps.
Mm.
And I said, aha. So basically what you're saying is you're wanting people to believe in this box, to fear this box, be terrified because it feeds you. It feeds the demonic entities. And it was like, yes. So do I think that this box has evil or yeah, I believe there's negative entity attached to it because, but then what they're doing is they're wanting us to believe it's more powerful than what it is by creating this fear because it feeds them.
Right.
Now, here's the next thing though, which kind of throws a little loop in that.
Okay.
Is Barry Guy had told me he was going to Vegas. This was February of last year, I believe it was. He says, hey, first time I'm coming to Vegas in America with some of my buddies. Why don't you come out. I said, oh, come out. We're gonna go back to the museum, and I'll get to go and do an entire tour because I hadn't seen the whole museum. We went on the tour, and the place, I started getting sick. But here's the interesting thing: is I go in there, and I sat there staring at it. All of a sudden, I see in the shadows this giant figure walks forward. This demonic entity, huge figure. I'm looking at this thing, going, "Holy shit! This is the demon that I saw when he bought the house."
Ah, yes.
I had the vision, and I texted him saying, "Dude, there's a giant demon that's attached to the house. You have to be careful." This thing attached itself to him.
Right.
From the house. This thing was now in the museum. Now this place is like a shrine to him, like
Right.
to all the stuff that's in there. It's building its own little net. I see this creature walk forward, and it's mad at me, walks towards me. And I said, "I'm not afraid of you." I said, "I've got angels, this and that," and it was trying to possess me. And I moved to the corner of the room because we're with a group of, like, I think it was 10 people or so. I don't want to get possessed or have a walk in front of these people and freak them out, right? This is nonchalant. So I'm fighting this thing, and Barry's like, "Chris, wrong." I'm like, "Barry, this thing's trying to take me over." And so I'm fighting this thing, I said, "Listen," I said, "I have angels and I believe in Jesus. There's nothing you can do to hurt me." All of a sudden, this thing comes out of the wall, goes right into my eye, like someone spit right into my eye. And I go, and it's in my eye, dead center in my eyeball. This thing spit at me. Phil, who was in Israel, I think it was in the Israeli army, is one of Barry's friends. He was there. He saw this thing come out of the wall. And I'm sitting there trying to get it out of my mouth, going, "Oh my God, I just got spit on by this thing in the eye," because it was blasphemy against Christ, right? It doesn't like Jesus spitting at me because of that. Right. We look all over the wall. There's nothing leaking. There's no spray mister. There's no water on the floor. Zero. Okay. We wanted to try to say, okay, well, this is just maybe something came out of the wall. Nothing. This physical thing appeared out of this creature, right? So then I had to leave. I got out of there. I'm still rubbing my eye, and Phil's like, "I saw it." He's like, "Oh my God, I saw this thing come out of nowhere and go right into your eye." And right. I grabbed my phone, and I think I did an Instagram talking about this. I think it's still on my Instagram. I don't know. I then texted Zach, and he said he was going to review the footage, and I never heard anything else more about it. Okay. But I believe that the demon that was in that demon house is now inside that museum. Personally, I don't like that place. I don't want to go back in. So you're asking, does the Dybbuk box have any power to it? I believe things do attach themselves to it, and then they feed off of the fear that they give it, you know?
Yep. I definitely believe that.
People believe in haunted objects, you know, so this thing's like a haunted object.
Yeah, and the fear that we give it is the fear that it possesses. And I definitely believe that wholeheartedly. Now, I had my neck surgery when you did the live show. And was that the same creature you felt when you were in the house portion? You know, because you rebuilt the house in there, and you know, a part of the house.
Yeah.
Is that the same demon that you felt that night?
The same one that he wanted me to make contact with it and everything. I said, "Well, I'm not making contact with this thing." I looked at him, "Are you crazy?" I go, he goes, "Well, can you channel it?" I'm not channeling no freaking demon. No. I've done that before. I'm like, "No, man, I'm not putting myself at risk because I know how this thing's attached to you. I'm not getting this thing attached to me."
Right.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I mean, we spoke, which you didn't get to see. Is I had communication back and forth. This thing's one of the fallen. It's one of the fallen. We asked it on the spirit box. It said it's one of the fallen, this and that. It used to be worshipped by the Romans, and certain other cultures used to worship this thing. Right. You know, now it doesn't have anybody really worshiping it. It's just going around to different places affecting people. But it was attached to that house. So it's one of the fallen.
Yeah. So I know you work in that realm, but what is your most favorite help you've ever helped anyone because of your gifts?
I don't know. You know, I think
but there's always one that kind of sticks out, kind of. Do you have that one?
Well, there would be, I think, there's so many different things, I guess. because sometimes you think you're just doing something little and that you completely change somebody's life. And then you
Right.
think you're doing something really big and the person's like, no big deal, you know?
Right.
Um,
Right.
the one thing the one
Exactly.
thing that I think was really the coolest for me that I got to be a part of was there was a girl that was possessed. My phone was ringing at 6, 7 in the morning. And my girlfriend at the time, she's the phone's ringing. I said, well, don't answer. Then besides my cell phone, then my home phone started ringing. I'm like, all right, it's got to be an emergency because now my home phone's ringing. Nobody has my home phone.
Right.
So I went and picked it up and I got a call that it was someone that I knew's girlfriend was possessed and she was at Alexian Brothers Hospital. 5 police officers had to hold her down and they don't know what to do. So reaching out to me and I said, well, can I get the family's approval so that I can go, there to visit? And he says, yeah, they'll get the family's approval to go. So I jump in the car and I have some video footage of me in the car and I'm talking to my buddy about it. And I get to Lexington Brothers. I walk in, I ask where this patient is and they bring me into emergency. And I'm standing outside the room. I'm waiting. They says, hang on a second. There was a police officer that was in there and he was coming out. And then a nurse comes up to me. She goes, oh my God, you're Chris Fleming. I said, yeah. She goes, no, you're on Psychic Kids. I go, oh, okay. You recognize me. She goes, oh my, are you here for her? And I said, yeah, how'd you know? She goes, oh my God, can I tell you what happened? I said, yeah, what happened? He goes, she was speaking in a man's voice, screaming and yelling. They had to handcuff her to the gurney thing, not the gurney thing, whatever they call the thing in the hospital. And the 5 police officers had to hold her down. And the police officers were like kind of freaked out because of what they experienced. I said, okay, So I go into the room and see her and I go, oh, I know this girl. I've met her before. And she goes, oh, you're here for the, and I said, yes. And all of a sudden I see this man. It wasn't a demonic entity. It was a male entity, like a biker type dude. And I see him standing there, real tall. I mean, the guy's like 6'5", 6'6". He's got a jean jacket, cut off, tattoos, everything, heavy set, And I look at him, I'm looking at her, I go, let me guess. It's like a biker dude. She goes, you see him? I go, yes, I see him. She goes, tell him to leave me alone. I said, I will. Anyway, the doctor comes in, then the psychologist comes in. She's like, tell us, I go, let them do their work first. You have to let them do their medical work. Then you have to let them do their diagnosis, the mental diagnosis. Then the psychologist, I go outside, psychiatrist would go outside. He goes, can I talk to you? He says, yeah. He goes, I haven't seen she's perfectly fine, her blood, everything else. We don't see any history of stuff like this. How do you handle this? And I told him, I go, well, it's just like you sit down with a patient. You talk to the patient. I have to talk to the spirit, to this entity. I have to find out why it's acting this way, why it chose her. Then I have to find out with her what's going on in her life that allowed it to come in and attach itself. So he and I had a brief conversation. He goes, do you think you can help her? I said, well, I'll try. This is obviously not the time and place to do it. So I got information when she was released. I went and saw that day or the next day, I can't remember. And I sat down with her for a while, was able to get some resolution, but not completely. So I called Adam Bly. Adam Bly came in, and then we resolved it. Fast forward, months later, I get a phone call from the nurse from Alexian Brothers saying that they have another patient that came in, this boy that was in Elmhurst that got possessed. And he's got some type of problem, but he's been seeing a psychiatrist for 10 months. Can you help? I said, give me the psychiatrist's number. So I called the psychiatrist, said who I was. I said, okay, what's his diagnosis? So we start discussing medications he's on. We start discussing his diagnosis. And I said, do I have permission from you? Because I want to get permission from if there's a psychologist or psychiatrist, I want to get permission first. I will not overstep their medical and their license and anything like that. I want to work with them and communicate. I said, can we discuss and share each other? So we got the permission from the family to discuss the HIPAA and everything. So I then set up an appointment with a psychiatrist's approval to go see the family and the kid. So I drove out there and I have no prerequisite. I say to the creator, I said, all right, you just tell me what to do when I get there. If there's anything I need to prepare for, let me know. And so I just drive there and the family's there and I'm talking to them, asking questions for about a half hour. I said, okay, bring in the son. The son comes in, he sits down and I introduced myself. And I said to him, I said, okay, what do you call this thing? She goes, I call it the dark man. We let the dark man come through. I said, what do you mean? I said, just let him take you over. I want to talk to him. He said, but I thought you were going to get rid of it. I said, well, I have to talk to him first,
Right.
Don't worry, I'm not going to let anything happen to you, this and that. And so the family was there. The spirit entered into him and I started talking to him. So we had a conversation for like an hour, hour and a half. And I got to know a lot about the spirit. The spirit was kind of yelling at me, says, you're going to burn in hell. They're like, well, I'm going to burn in hell. There's no such thing as hell. It was yes, there is. I go, no, there isn't. Not where I'm going. For me, there ain't no hell. For you, you created a hell. There's no God. I go, God didn't create a hell. You created a hell because you needed a place to go. We know this now. Okay. And then you made man believe that God created this hell, but you created it. So you want to create fear into man so that you had a place to put them in or make them go if they felt they did something wrong. So you're doing this psychological thing to man. I knew this. So it's like, how do you know this? So anyway, I'm not going to say some of the stuff that we talked about, but let's just say we got into historical stuff regarding the fallen and where it came from, why it's here. Then we talked about the problems it had with the creator, why it was upset at the creator. So I discussed it, that you could be forgiven, this and that. And then I found out why this boy was having this attachment, why it was able to attach it, dealing with the father figure. This entity had a problem with the father, the Holy Father. This boy had a problem with his father, and that's what it used to attach. Okay. So in conversing with spirit, I got it to believe that it could feel love again, that it could be forgiven. And all of a sudden it started to see things like, oh my God, who are all these people? Right? I said, those are for you. They want to help you. You don't have to be evil anymore. You don't have to do this. The thing left. Okay. And we had a little conversation before it left. And it was really an emotional thing. It was a beautiful thing. Right. And it left. And then the boy was there. He says, is it gone? I said, yeah, it's gone. Well, here's the thing. We fast forward. I talked to the psychiatrist, everything. 6 months, I followed up. Then a year later, I followed up. Kid never had a problem again. Never had a walk-in, never collapsed, never got angry again. And that was it. So for me, it was in a way where I was able to converse with this entity through the physical body, through the channeling of this boy. And the whole family heard it. I mean, the thing was speaking through him. You know, they all sat there just paying attention to what happened. Right. So I had witnesses. But for me, it was cool because this thing was receptive. It opened up and spoke to me. And then it was gone. So for me, that was the coolest thing because I just did what my guides were telling me to do, but I also knew what to do. It was the thing, like I just knew what to say, like I was guided. I was guided to converse with this thing. So that's the story. My mom's yelling at me because I got to go run some errands for the book. It's too late.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I wanted to thank you for being here tonight. It was just amazing. So thank you for coming on and got to spend some time. Everybody's still watching. Everybody loves it. So thank you. Of course, you can find him on Instagram, Facebook. Where else? Are you on TikTok yet?
No, I'm not going to. I don't have time for all that. You got to juggle everything else, you know? Yeah.
I just want to tell everybody that's watching next week, right here when I'm on here, we're doing the paranormal match game next week. The show I do at events and stuff. Next week we'll be doing it live. I have 6 contestants and then 6 paranormal celebrities, and you got to try to match them to win. So it's going to be a fun show next week, 7 o'clock right here in the same place right here on Facebook. But Chris, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being
Hey, buddy,
here.
thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yep, you will. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you guys soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. For having me.